In the world of ultra-luxury automotive engineering, people obsess over the horsepower, the engine displacement, and the aerodynamics. But when a billionaire walks up to a $4 million hypercar, the very first thing they fall in love with isn't the engine, it is the skin. Creating a flawless, glass-like finish on a piece of raw carbon fiber is not an art, it is a brutal, unforgiving science. You are working with highly toxic solvents, microscopic polymer chains, and absolute environmental control. A single speck of dust, a temperature fluctuation of 2 degrees, or a miscalculation in the chemical hardener, and a masterpiece instantly turns into absolute peeling garbage. I spent my entire career mastering the fragile, invisible chemistry that protects the most expensive machines on the planet. I just never realized that while I was obsessively formulating shields to protect metal and carbon fiber, I had left my own life completely exposed and unprotected. My name is Gail. I'm 36 years old, and I am a materials scientist and master automotive refinisher. 6 years ago, I married Serena. Serena was a high-powered luxury public relations director. She thrived in the glamorous, champagne-soaked world of elite branding, VIP galas, and celebrity networking. I was the quiet, obsessive chemist who spent 14 hours a day in a windless, solvent-smelling laboratory. We were opposites, but I truly believed we were building an empire together. She had the silver tongue to sell the vision, and I had the hands and the intellect to actually build it. For 4 agonizing years, I spent every single weekend, every holiday, and every ounce of my personal savings developing my absolute magnum opus. I called it the Aegis Polymer. It wasn't just a custom paint job, it was a revolutionary self-healing thermochromic smart coating designed specifically for the aerospace and hypercar industry. The polymer could instantly shift colors based on microcurrents of electricity, and if the car was scratched, the clear coat would chemically rebind and heal itself under direct sunlight. It was the absolute holy grail of automotive materials. The patent potential alone was conservatively appraised by an independent engineering firm at roughly $20 million. I promised Serena that this technology was our golden ticket. I told her we would license the chemical patents to a top-tier German automotive manufacturer, and we would be set for life. She would never have to hustle for a PR client ever again. But Serena didn't want to wait for the ink to dry on a licensing deal. She looked at my respirator, my exhausted eyes, and my paint-stained hands, and she decided she wanted the $20 million, but she wanted it with a completely different partner.
The foundation of our marriage started to bubble and peel when Serena's PR agency landed a massive contract with a boutique hypercar manufacturer. The CEO of that company was a man named Julian. Julian was 42 years old and the absolute poster boy for venture capital arrogance. He didn't build cars. He didn't know how to tighten a single bolt or mix a single drop of primer. He was a ruthless corporate financier who bought up struggling engineering firms, slapped a sleek, aggressive logo on their chassis, and charged Saudi royals and tech billionaires a massive premium for the badge. He drove a leased McLaren, wore $100,000 Patek Philippe watches, and treated brilliant mechanics and engineers like disposable minimum-wage laborers. Suddenly, Serena was spending all her time at Julian's glass-walled corporate headquarters, claiming she was restructuring his global brand strategy for the European market. The red flags didn't just quietly appear, they triggered every internal toxicity alarm I had. First, the profound, unapologetic disrespect. Serena started bringing Julian directly into my highly secure positive pressure spray laboratory. Julian would strut through my workspace, pointing at my highly sensitive mixing vats and openly mocking my life's work. "Gail, you're a great body shop guy, buddy," Julian smirked one afternoon, leaning against a $500,000 ventilation hood. "But you're thinking like a spray painter. This tech is a product. You need a visionary like me to scale it. You just hold the spray gun. I'm the one who creates the market value. I control the industry." Serena didn't defend me. She just smiled, touched his arm, and looked at me with thinly veiled contempt. Second, the intense pressure to hand over the chemical logs. Serena began relentlessly insisting that I needed to upload the unencrypted, raw chemical formulas and the compounding ratios for the Aegis polymer to a shared cloud drive so Julian's legal team could review it for a potential buyout deal. Third, the intimacy completely vanished. She moved her things into the guest bedroom, claiming that the smell of acetone and hardener on my skin was giving her intense migraines. She started coming home at 3 a.m. smelling like high-end cologne and expensive scotch. When a luxury PR agent suddenly demands the unencrypted master keys to a $20 million proprietary polymer algorithm, you don't hit upload, you run a deep-level security audit. When you build a highly advanced, climate-controlled laboratory filled with highly volatile chemicals, you don't just leave your Wi-Fi open to the public. My entire home network and my lab servers were routed through a custom firewall that logged every single byte of data moving across the local area network, paired with environmental sensors. One Saturday afternoon, while I was supposedly outsourcing specialized pearl flake pigments, my phone alerted me to a massive, unauthorized data pull from the primary server. I pulled my truck into an empty parking lot, opened my secure server app, and tapped into the network feed. I didn't just find an affair. I witnessed a premeditated, highly coordinated corporate heist. I artificially slowed the transfer speed to a crawl to buy myself time and mirrored her laptop screen directly to my iPad. She had her encrypted messaging app open, communicating directly with Julian. Julian wrote, "My lead chemical engineers just looked at the compressed demo formula you sneaked out last week. They're losing their minds. The self-healing polymer chain is 5 years ahead of anything Ferrari or Porsche has. If we launch this as the exclusive coating on my new $4 million hypercar at the Geneva International Motor Show next month, our company valuation will triple. Have you secured the master compounding logs yet?" Serena replied, her words dripping with a casual, horrifying cruelty that made the blood freeze in my veins. "I'm copying the master repository from his server right now. The idiot actually thinks I care about his stupid paint fumes. Tomorrow, while he's at his parents' house, I'll hire a crew to load the physical barrels of the raw polymer into a truck. We'll spray your prototype, launch the tech in Geneva, and I'll serve him with divorce papers the morning after. He has no money to fight your corporate lawyers. He's just a glorified mechanic, Julian. We'll be set for life." Julian responded, "You're a visionary, my love. The spray boy is gonna fund our entire empire." I sat alone in the sweltering cab of my truck, staring at my phone as my entire reality shattered into a million pieces. My wife of 6 years was sleeping with a corporate parasite. Together, they were actively plotting to steal 4 years of my blood, sweat, and genius. They were gonna steal my masterpiece, launch it on the biggest stage in the automotive world, claim it as their own, and leave me completely broke, discarded, and humiliated. They thought I was just a naive spray boy. They didn't understand the level of absolute, unmitigated chemical destruction a master materials scientist is capable of engineering. The absolute first rule of chemical engineering is, if you want to destroy a system, you don't take a sledgehammer to the outside. You alter the foundational molecular bonds on the inside, and you let the material destroy its own illusion. I didn't rush home. I didn't burst through the doors screaming and crying, because if I did that, Julian would just deny the entire thing. Serena would play the victim, and with the photos they already took, Julian would just hire a team of cheap chemists to reverse engineer my designs. I needed them to take my specific barrels of polymer. I needed Julian to feel invincible. I needed him to proudly stand in front of thousands of investors and live cameras in Switzerland and claim my creation as his own.
That night, while Serena was fast asleep in our bedroom, dreaming of her stolen millions, I went quietly into the mixing lab. I didn't break the barrels. I just opened the master digital formula and I rewrote the compounding logic. Then, I turned to the physical 50-gallon drums of the raw polymer they were planning to steal. I altered the UV reactive catalyst. The entire polymer ecosystem would function flawlessly for Julian's team during the application process. Perfection. They could take it to their private paint booth, spray it on their $4 million carbon fiber chassis, buff it to a mirror shine, and feel like absolute untouchable gods of the automotive industry. Under normal fluorescent garage lights or even standard sunlight, the car would look like a flawless, impossibly deep Vantablack. But deeply embedded in the absolute foundational math of the chemical hardener, buried so deep that no QA tester on Earth would ever find without a mass spectrometer, I hid a logic bomb. I formulated the clear coat to react violently to high-intensity, concentrated halogen and UVA stage lighting, the exact, specific type of massive, blindingly hot lighting rigs used on the main stage at global automotive unveilings. If the paint was exposed to those specific stage lights for more than 10 minutes, the molecular bonds wouldn't just weaken, they would catastrophically invert. The paint would rapidly expand, boil, and violently peel away from the carbon fiber, and as it oxidized, it would turn from a deep, luxurious black into a horrific, flaky, neon pink sludge. I sealed the barrels. I saved the fake code. I left the master files on the server for Serena to steal. The next morning, I packed my bags to go visit my parents. I kissed Serena goodbye. "Have a really great trip, Gail," she smiled, handing me a travel mug of coffee. "Take care of the lab for me, Serena," I replied, looking her dead in the eyes. "You know that project is my masterpiece. I will protect it with my life," she promised. I never went to my parents' house. I drove straight to the downtown offices of the most aggressive, ruthless, intellectual property and corporate fraud litigator in the state. A man whose entire job was destroying fraudulent corporations. I sat down at his mahogany conference table. I handed him my original time-stamped chemical formulas. I handed him the high-definition security footage and the crystal-clear data logs of Serena and Julian explicitly conspiring to steal the files and the physical barrels. And finally, I handed him the official, federally approved patent documentation for the Aegis polymer, which I had secretly expedited and secured exclusively in my own name a month prior. My wife and her accomplice are going to debut this stolen, patented chemical technology on a prototype vehicle at the Geneva International Motor Show next Saturday, I told my lawyer calmly. My lawyer reviewed the documents, read the chat logs, and slowly smiled like a shark smelling blood in the water. "Gail, utilizing stolen, patented chemical engineering to solicit tens of millions of dollars from international buyers is a massive, willful federal violation and international fraud. If he presents this, we won't just sue him for damages. The SEC and international authorities will literally liquidate his entire automotive company. Draft the paperwork, but do not file the injunction yet. Do not stop the show. Let him pull the silk cover off the car. I want him to put his face on it in front of the whole world." On Wednesday afternoon, sitting in a hotel room across town, my phone notified me that my lab door had been breached. Through the security cameras, I watched Julian and his crew illegally load my heavy steel barrels into the back of a rented moving truck. Serena left a white envelope containing divorce papers next to my tools and walked out without looking back. They were laughing.
They thought they had just executed the perfect, untouchable heist. But they had no idea they had just loaded a ticking chemical bomb onto their own chassis.
Saturday afternoon, live from the main hall of the Geneva Motor Show, the undisputed center of the global luxury automotive industry. I sat in my hotel room watching the global broadcast in high definition. The live stream had over 2 million viewers. Julian was hyping up the crowd, pacing back and forth across the massive stage, absolutely dripping with unearned confidence. The camera panned to the VIP section, and I saw Serena standing there, holding a glass of champagne, looking incredibly proud, believing she had just conquered the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julian yelled into his microphone, raising his arms. "For 4 years, my in-house engineering team has been building the impossible. Today, we don't just reveal a car, we reveal the future of material science, the Aegis Hypercar." The crowd went absolutely wild. Pyrotechnics flashed. Julian grabbed the corner of the black velvet cloth and whipped it off the car. The crowd gasped. Sitting at the center of the stage was a breathtaking $4 million hypercar, coated in the deepest, most flawless black paint ever created. It looked like a mirror staring into the abyss. Julian beamed. He signaled the lighting technicians. The massive, high-intensity halogen and UVA stage lights dropped down from the ceiling, blasting the car with blinding, searing white light to show off the finish. I looked at the stopwatch on my phone. Julian strutted around the car, talking about his genius vision and his tireless hours in the lab. 5 minutes passed, 7 minutes. At exactly the 10-minute mark, the chemical catalyst triggered. On the live global broadcast, right in front of the most ruthless automotive journalists on Earth, the magic violently died. The flawless black finish on the hood of the car suddenly lost its gloss. A harsh, audible crackling sound echoed through the stage microphones. The billionaires in the front row frowned, leaning in. The molecular bonds of the clear coat completely inverted. The sleek black paint began to violently bilster and boil. Massive fist-sized bubbles formed across the roof and the doors, and then the polymer expanded and detached from the expensive carbon fiber. It didn't just peel. As it oxidized under the hot lights, it turned into a horrific, flaky, neon pink sludge. Within 30 seconds, the magnificent $4 million hypercar looked like it had been covered in boiling, rotting pink bubblegum. Giant, wet flakes of pink sludge started sliding off the doors and splattering onto the pristine white stage floor. The entire convention hall went dead, pin-drop silent. The live stream chat completely broke. "What the hell is happening?" Julian screamed at his engineers, his face turning purple with panic. He ran up to the car and tried to wipe the sludge off with his bare hands, instantly staining his $5,000 suit with sticky neon pink goo. The journalists started shouting in sheer horror and snapping thousands of photos. The investors in the front row were staring in absolute disgust. In the VIP box, Serena dropped her champagne glass. It shattered. She put her hands over her mouth, her face turning the color of wet concrete. She looked like she was going to pass out. "Turn off the lights! Cut the feed!" Julian screamed, totally unhinged, looking around the room in absolute horror. But the damage was already done. 2 million people had seen everything. Before the convention security could even figure out what to do, a team of international process servers and local Swiss authorities, coordinated by my legal team, walked right past the stunned bodyguards onto the stage. They handed a thick stack of federal and international lawsuits directly to Julian, who was standing there dripping in pink slime. I took a slow, deeply satisfying sip of my bourbon, letting the burns settle in my chest. The show was officially over.